I saw this video again this morning. That's probably about 4 years old at this point, but I remember seeing it when it actually happened. And the video I'll link below, but it's nothing graphic, but it's nearing. It's a very near miss. So I will just it'll be there if you want to watch it, but I will describe it in as much detail if you don't, without being too vague or too specific, even though it's not that graphic. It was basically a man running down Putney Bridge when there's two buses approaching, and he's running down the pathway, and he runs past one man and then past that man onto a woman who is just walking down at a slower pace closer to the edge of the road, and as he passes her, just shoves her in front of this bus that is coming. And the bus driver luckily veers, did not hit her, but was incredibly close. There's less than a foot in it. Her head was impeccably close to tragedy. To this could have been terrible. It's a fucking double-decker bus coming down this bridge, and this man just keeps on running and doesn't even acknowledge the fact that he's pushed her, and then gets to the end of the bridge, turns around, runs back past this woman, and again does not acknowledge her and just keeps on going. And this reminded me of one of these very famous sort of urban legends that I used to hear a lot about. And these have been around for a very long time, and there's multiple different variants of them. I know there's some through Wigan, there's some through Manchester most famously, but also Birmingham and Pimlico and sort of parts of central London as well have their own sort of stories of this, and they all follow the same theme. It is a person or group of persons who just run past people in the middle of the night or during the day, and for no apparent reason, with no sort of confrontation, just shove people into the canals. In Yorkshire it's known as the Yorkshire Dipper. Manchester has the Manchester Pusher. These are collectively known as canal pushers, and no one, I don't think, has ever been arrested for the spate of instances, and it's sort of generally known as it might be a bit of a hoax, but I tend to believe that it's less of a hoax and more of a bit of an exaggeration, that this is a thing that does actually happen and it is going on, and there are people who do push people and just out of like weird spates of rage and unaimed anger shove people into these rivers. And there's been 89 cases or 79 cases since 2007 of bodies washing up unexplained within the water, and that is usually the focus of these cases. But I think it's less the deaths and more just instances of people falling in the river and then being able to get out. But these canals they usually have like a dip in them, which is, it has a reason to do with when there's heavy water. It has to bulge out sort of more before it can rise over the edge and cause flooding. But it also makes them very hard to get out and very hard to see over when you're in it. So lots of people can be pushed in and not know they've been pushed in. So maybe these aren't serial killers. They're just people with a weird fascination and having some weird satisfaction in just shoving people in. And like, there are cases of people surviving, and I think we should focus more on the people surviving. I remember a pregnant woman, I think her name was Sarah Wilson, in Birmingham, being pushed in by a group of teenagers. Maybe that was a personal vendetta, or maybe that was what this really is. It's less of some sadistic serial killer. And, a lot of these bodies may just be drunk people who end up in the river, because I know from experience that it is very easy, and I will admit it has happened, to me and my friends to fall into bodies of water. It is a very high possibility, but I don't think every single one is like this. And I think there is some sort of truth, maybe not of a serial killer, but of people just having bad days and shoving people in the canals. It's weird and it's sick, and it's a very odd thing that's going on, but from this video and seeing that it is just a thing that can happen, like, this video is proof that people can just out of nowhere shove someone into danger. And because there are so many cases of this, it just seems of such a high number to be just completely made up. I think it's definitely exaggerated because it's such a story. You hear, the Yorkshire Dipper, and that just sounds like all the elements of an urban legend. But I really do think at some point, or maybe due to some other reasons, people are being pushed into these canals and maybe drowning, but definitely some are surviving, and it's just an odd crime that happens, just like street muggings or, random assaults where someone just punches someone in the street. It's in that same vein, and I don't know why it's happening, but I think it definitely is. Maybe not to the extreme we perceive it as, but I think there are people who would do this. There clearly are people from this video, but I think there are, because it's definitely, something is definitely happening, and maybe not a serial killer, but maybe some very odd and possibly, potentially, increasingly dangerous people who just think it's fine to just someone in the river.